All right, so we're diving into power dynamics today
We are.
with Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
Big one.
It is. And you're interested in seeing these laws, how they play out
Yeah.
in real life, and then what they mean for you. So we're going to go through all 48.
Yeah.
All 48.
Buckle up.
And we're going to be looking at examples from history and even modern times to make them come alive.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about Greene's work is it's not just like a historical analysis.
Right.
It's really trying to lay out a framework for understanding power in all its forms and something that you can apply to your own life.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in with Law 1, never outshine the master. This one's all about strategic humility.
Yeah. I think the key takeaway here is you don't want to make your superiors feel insecure. Like, that's a surefire way to kind of sabotage yourself. So you almost want to make them feel more powerful, even if that means kind of dimming your own shine temporarily.
It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it? But when you see it in historical examples, it makes sense. You think about Nicolas Fouquet. He was the finance minister for Louis XIV, and
Yeah.
he threw this lavish party, thinking he was honoring the king.
Yikes.
Right.
Yeah. Huge backfire.
Yeah.
So extravagant, this party, that Louis XIV saw it as a threat. He was basically like, whoa, 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 Fouquet, you're getting a little too big for your britches here.
Right.
And so Fouquet ends up arrested
Yeah.
and imprisoned.
Yeah. Talk about a party foul.
Yeah.
So now contrast that with Galileo. You know Galileo, brilliant guy, but he was really smart about how he presented his discoveries to the Medici family, his patron. So he basically linked their family to the discovery of Jupiter's moons, which essentially made them stars,
Yeah.
right, in the scientific world
Right.
at the time.
Yeah. And because of that, Galileo secured his position.
Right.
Right. He really understood that true power often lies in making those above you feel comfortable and in control.
Yeah. So for you, this law, think about it in terms of your workplace, right?
Yeah.
What are your boss's insecurities? What are their goals? How can you present your own work in a way that makes them look good? It's not about being a pushover.
Right.
It's about,
being strategic.
being strategic. Okay.
Yeah.
Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. This one sounds a little ruthless, doesn't it?
Well, it does. It's very counterintuitive. But if you think about it, right, friends can easily become envious, especially if they're in the same field as you, and they know your weaknesses.
Right.
Sometimes that familiarity breeds contempt.
It's like keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Exactly. And a great example of someone who understood this was Emperor Sung of China. He knew that his generals could be a threat to him.
Right.
So he kept them at arm's length, showered them with riches to keep them content, but never let them gain enough power to actually challenge his rule.
He used their ambition to his advantage. Now, on the flip side, you have Talleyrand and Fouché, major figures during Napoleon's reign. And they were initially enemies, constantly, fighting for power.
Yeah.
But they realized that they had a common enemy, right?
Right.
Napoleon.
Right.
So they formed this alliance, combined their influence, and actually contributed to his downfall eventually.
Absolutely.
So it's this reminder that, sometimes your enemies can be the most valuable allies.
So, for you listening to this, think about your own life. Are there people you've kind of dismissed as enemies that actually might share some of your goals? Could you turn a rivalry into a partnership?
It's about looking past the old grudge and seeing the bigger picture.
Okay.
Law 3, conceal your intentions. So this is all about surprise. If you think about it, it's like a magician, right? You don't want them to know
Right.
how they do the tricks until the very last moment. Because if you reveal your plans too early, people can stop you.
They can, yeah.
So there's this great example, the biblical story of Jehu, and he wanted to get rid of all the worshipers of Baal, but he knew he couldn't just announce it.
Right.
So he basically created this whole ruse, this whole elaborate plan where he was like, oh, we're going to have this grand ceremony at the temple. Everyone come.
Right.
And then when they were all there, bam, he struck.
Total surprise.
Yeah.
They had no chance.
Talk about a power move. Another example is Yellow Kid Weil, the famous con man. He was a master at creating these setups
Yeah.
with decoys and red herrings. So by the time people realized what was happening,
It's too late.
yeah.
They're already caught.
So for you listening, think about, how are you revealing your plans?
Yeah.
What are your long-term goals? Do you need to keep things a secret?
Right. Are you telling everybody what you're up to?
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes it's better to just keep it quiet, Play your cards close to the vest. It can give you a big advantage.
Yeah. Law 4. Always say less than necessary.
Yeah.
So this is about being concise with your words.
Right. The economy of words, right? It's the more you say, the more common you appear.
Right.
If you're really careful about what you say and you say less, it has more weight.
Yeah. We could look at Coriolanus, who was a really skilled general, but he had this weakness. He boasted. Like, he just couldn't stop bragging about what he'd done. And it alienated people, and it actually led to his downfall.
It did.
Now, contrast that with Louis XIV,
Right.
the Sun King. He had this very distinct way. People would petition him, I want this, I want that. He would simply say, I shall see.
Right.
And that was it. And it really, people were on edge.
Right. It created this aura of mystery
Yeah.
and power around his decisions.
Right, exactly. So, silence is golden.
Yeah.
It allows you to observe, to assess, and then really think about what you're going to say. So I think for you, this is a reminder to just think about, how much are you sharing? Are you over-explaining?
Right.
Could you be more concise?
Are you saying too much?
Yeah. Think about how your words are impacting people. And remember, less is more.
Absolutely. Now, Law 5 is a big one. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life.
Yeah.
This is about your personal brand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It precedes you.
Right. It does. It shapes how people perceive you, and it can be so powerful in this game of power.
Think about P.T. Barnum. You know, the master showman.
Oh, yeah.
And he was really great at, creating buzz.
Right.
Getting the word out there,
Yeah.
generating publicity. And even when things went wrong, he knew how to turn it around, make it into an opportunity.
Yeah, he turned mistakes into opportunities.
Right. So perception is reality, in a way.
Absolutely.
Now, we contrast that with Zhuge Liang, a brilliant strategist, Chinese history. And he had a situation where his army was completely outnumbered. And they were trapped, essentially.
Yeah.
But instead of freaking out, he did this really clever ruse where he opened the city gates and sat there calmly playing his lute.
Wow.
So the enemy general thought, oh, there's a trap.
It must be a trap.
I'm not going in. And he retreated, giving Liang the victory. So this is all about being really mindful of the image that you project.
Right?
Are your actions actually backing up the image you're trying to project? Are you actively protecting your brand?
Yeah. A strong reputation opens doors. It protects you from attacks. It's something you really want to cultivate and safeguard.
Okay, Law 6. Court attention at all cost.
Yeah, this one sounds a little superficial, but it's really about understanding how to position yourself to be noticed.
Right. And P.T. Barnum's back. Because he really knew how to create.
Spectacle.
Yes.
Yeah.
These events that people would be talking about. And wanting to go to. Now let's look at Count Lustig, the con man that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And he was really great at creating this aura of mystery around himself.
Right, intrigue.
Yeah.
Yeah, people wanted to be around him.
Right. And he used that to his advantage to deceive and manipulate.
Yeah.
So, for you, this might be a little bit about, how do you stand out? Are you blending in too much? Could you be doing more to showcase what's special about you?
Yeah, and it's not about being flashy or like an attention hog. It's about understanding how to strategically position yourself to get noticed by the right people.
It's about commanding that respect and attention.
Yeah.
Now, for Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Now, this one's definitely a little...
Machiavellian.
Yeah. But it's about understanding delegation and leverage.
I always think about this one like, imagine you're a conductor. You're leading the orchestra, but you're not playing all the instruments.
Right.
You're guiding the performance, you're shaping the music, and then you take a bow at the end.
Right. So there's an interesting story about Colbert, the con man. And he convinced people he had the answers to their problems.
Yeah.
But then he tricked them into doing the work for him to solve the problem.
Wow. Master manipulator.
Yeah. And then you have Thomas Edison. We always think of him as this innovator.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy. But he had a knack for taking credit for the work that his assistants did. So he understood how to be the figurehead, to be the face of it, even if other people were doing a lot of the work behind the scenes. So this one definitely raises some ethical questions.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between delegation and making sure you're not taking too much credit.
Right, recognizing other people's contributions.
Yeah. So for you listening, this is about thinking, how are you using the talents of the people around you? Are you delegating? Are you giving credit where credit is due? Are you building a team? That helps you get where you need to go, while also making sure everyone feels appreciated.
It's finding that sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. So this is all about patience
Yeah.
and strategic positioning.
It's like fishing.
Yes.
You're not chasing after the fish. You're casting your line. You're waiting for them to bite.
You set the trap.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, the classic fable, the fox and the goat.
Oh, yeah.
The fox wants the grapes.
Yeah.
They're high up on the vine. So it convinces the goat to stand on its hind legs and reach for them.
Right.
The goat, eager to please.
Naive little goat.
Yeah. So the goat gets the grapes, but then the fox jumps on the goat's back and uses the goat as a stepping stool
So smart.
to get to the grapes. So, the fox really knew how to, use the goat as bait.
Absolutely.
Now, historically, Napoleon,
Yeah.
he was a master at making himself the center of attention.
Yeah.
He projected power and opportunity
Right.
that people just wanted to be part of,
Yeah.
even his former enemies. He was like a magnet.
Yeah. He really knew how to use ambition to his advantage.
So you listening, think about, how are you presenting yourself to the world? Are you making yourself valuable, desirable? Are you someone that people actually seek out?
You want to be the person that people come to. You want to cultivate those skills, build that reputation, and create that sense of intrigue that draws people in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument.
This one's great. It's about showing, not telling. Right. Words can be persuasive, but your actions speak louder than words. They really show your capabilities, your commitment, even your character.
Yeah. We can look at Michelangelo, right? When his patron criticized the sculpture of David, he didn't get into a fight with him.
Right.
He just took a chisel and made a few tiny adjustments
Yeah.
to the statue to make it look like he was removing flaws.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And the patron, seeing those improvements, was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he sidestepped the whole argument by just showing.
Yeah, exactly. There's another story about an engineer who, he disagreed with his superior's orders, but he followed them anyway.
Wow.
And it turned out to be a really positive thing. Because if he had fought it, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So it's this idea that sometimes action is better than argument.
Right. Choose your battles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about it.
Hmm.
Are you backing up what you say with what you do?
Are you all talk? Or are you actually walking the walk?
Exactly. Are you showing your commitment through what you're doing? Okay. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. This one's a little,
Harsh?
it can be a little harsh, but it's about negativity
Yeah.
and how it can spread.
It's like a disease.
Yeah. When you're around someone who's always complaining,
Yeah.
it can suck you in
It really can.
and affect your judgment. and
It can be
everything.
so draining.
Yeah. Lola Montez is beautiful. And she had this dramatic life, but she was constantly surrounded by negativity and drama,
Yeah.
which led to her downfall.
Yeah.
So it's like a cautionary tale. Surround yourself with positive people.
Absolutely.
Then you have Cassius, from Shakespeare, Julius Caesar, always envious and just dissatisfied with life.
Yeah.
And that really ruined his relationships and led to his demise.
Yeah.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for you, think about who you're hanging out with.
Right.
Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they lifting you up or are they dragging you down?
Choose wisely, my friend. Emotions can be contagious, so you want to make sure you're in a positive environment that fosters growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Law 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. This one's a little,
Manipulative.
yeah,
Yeah, but I think a better way to think about it is interdependence, right?
right.
So it's about, if you have skills or knowledge that other people need, you become valuable, you become indispensable.
Yeah, there's a story of this astrologer who served King Louis XIII, and he was essential to the king, for advice, personal and political,
Right.
and he gained so much power and influence from that. He was the confidant. And then there's Michelangelo, right?
Yeah.
Master artist. And his patrons really wanted to keep him around. They would do whatever it took.
Yeah, they needed his talent.
Right. So, for you, this is about thinking, what skills do you have that other people need?
What are you good at?
Yeah. What can you become really great at that other people will need you for?
Yeah.
How can you be that go-to person?
Right. Be the person with the answers. You're the problem solver.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This one sounds a little counterintuitive, but it's about kindness strategically.
Right. It's about building trust and rapport. You think about it. When someone is kind to you or does something nice, you're more likely to trust them. You kind of let your guard down.
Alcibiades, right?
Oh, yeah.
Athenian general.
Classic manipulator.
Yes.
But he used charm, honesty, and generosity to gain the trust of the Spartans. And then he used that to his advantage.
Of course.
So he really understood that appearing genuine was crucial to achieving his goals. And then you have Joseph Duveen, the art dealer, who, he was a really shrewd businessman.
Yes, yes.
But he also knew how to cultivate relationships. He would often offer his clients really generous terms,
Right.
even taking a loss sometimes. But knowing that it would pay off in the long run,
Right.
he was playing the long game.
Exactly. Building the trust. So, this one's about thinking, how are you using kindness and generosity?
Right.
Are you actually being genuine?
Right. Are you being real with people?
Yeah. Or are you just trying to get something from them?
It's got to be authentic.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. So this is about what really drives people.
Yeah, understanding what motivates people. And people are inherently self-interested, right?
Right.
So they're more likely to help you if they see how it benefits them.
Yeah. So if you look at, for example, the Portuguese missionaries in Japan, they tried to convert people to Christianity by appealing to their sense of mercy and gratitude.
Right, and that failed.
It failed miserably.
Because they didn't understand the culture. They were focused on their own religious ideals, but they weren't really paying attention to the practical benefits for the Japanese people, and so it was met with resistance.
Contrast that with Chutai, advisor to Genghis Khan. And he actually saved a lot of lives and gained a lot of influence by appealing to Genghis Khan's desire for wealth and stability.
Right.
He understood that aligning it with his interests would get him further. So for you, this is a little bit about, think about the person you're trying to persuade. What are their goals, their fears, their aspirations?
Yeah.
How can you frame your request to kind of hit on those things?
That's all about framing.
Yeah, framing it in a way that benefits them.
Yeah.
Okay, Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Now this one sounds...
Sneaky.
It does, doesn't it?
That's it.
But it's about information.
It's power.
Yes.
Right. The more you know about people, the better equipped you are to kind of navigate these power dynamics.
Yeah. We talked about Joseph Duveen, the art dealer, and he was really great at subtly getting information from his clients and their staff to learn their tastes, their weaknesses, their financial limit, and he used that then to tailor how he sold things.
Wow. He was like a detective.
Yeah, piecing together a picture of his target. Now, Talleyrand, we've talked about him too.
Master networker.
Yes. And he was very charming, moved very easily in social circles, gathering information, building relationships.
He was a master of social intelligence.
He really was. So for you, pay attention, observe, actively listen to people. What can you learn?
What can you pick up on from their body language, their words?
Yeah, and that'll help you navigate the power.
Yeah.
Okay, Law 15. Crush your enemy. Totally. Now this one sounds pretty
Intense.
extreme, right?
Yeah.
But it's about, you don't want to leave any spark of resistance.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway here is that if you leave an enemy wounded but not defeated, they might come back to bite you later.
Right, they can seek revenge.
Exactly. And Cesare Borgia, this ruthless Italian ruler, understood this perfectly. He crushed his enemies, absolutely destroyed them. No chance of retaliation.
He was known for being brutal. He believed it was better to be feared than loved. But on the other hand, right, Mao Zedong in China. Yeah, he had this conflict with Chiang Kai-shek. It's kind of an example of what happens when you don't
Right.
eliminate the enemy. Because even though he won, he didn't totally win, and there were years of conflict after that. So it's this idea that mercy can be a weakness.
Right.
If you're dealing with someone formidable, you need to make sure that they're neutralized.
Yeah, if you're going to go up against somebody, you got to make sure that it's a decisive victory.
Right. Now, of course, we're not talking about violence here.
Right.
We're talking about just in general addressing threats, challenges, and being really decisive. Okay, so Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Now, this one is all about strategic scarcity.
Yeah, think about it. When something is readily available, it loses its value. But when it's scarce, it becomes much more desirable. Everybody wants it.
There's a story about a sultan, and he had a pet bird. And he loved his bird, but he had it all the time, so he kind of took it for granted. But then one day, the bird disappeared, and the sultan was devastated.
Oh, no.
He missed the bird singing its beauty, and he realized, oh, I really love that bird. bird.
Right. The absence made him realize the bird's true value.
Exactly. And then when the bird came back,
Oh, he was so happy.
yeah.
Right. Appreciated it all the more.
Now, if we look at Count Lustig, again, he would disappear. He would make himself scarce, only show up at certain events,
Right.
and people were, like, dying to see him.
Yeah. It's that air of mystery.
So think about it. Are you always available? Are you always reachable?
Right.
Maybe a little strategic absence would be good. Make people miss you.
Right. Make them come to you.
Yeah. Make it a special occasion when they do see you. All right, Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. And this one's
Scary.
it is a little scary. But it's about, if someone doesn't know what to expect,
Right. You keep them on their toes.
it can be unsettling.
It can be.
Yeah.
And Stonewall Jackson during the Civil War was a master of this tactic.
Yeah, he was all over the place.
Right. His movements were so unpredictable, the enemy never knew where he was going to strike next.
Right. So it gave him this huge strategic advantage. Now, of course, this isn't about creating fear or chaos for the sake of it.
Right. This is more about just recognizing that a certain degree of unpredictability can be powerful in certain situations.
Think about Pablo Escobar, the Colombian drug lord.
Oh, yeah.
He was really erratic, and he had this really ruthless reputation.
Right. He kept people guessing.
Yeah, it made him really formidable. So I think for you, this is about thinking, how predictable are you? Could you benefit from being a little more spontaneous? Could you shake things up? Keep people guessing?
Yeah,
It could give you an edge.
it could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Now, this sounds counterintuitive, but it's about staying connected to the world around you. Because when you isolate yourself, you become vulnerable.
Absolutely. You lose touch with reality.
Yeah. And people can take advantage. You think about Qin Shi Huangdi, the first emperor of China. He built this massive palace to protect himself. He was obsessed with immortality.
Right. And it backfired.
It did,
What?
because he became paranoid, out of touch, and it led to conspiracies and the collapse of his dynasty.
Right.
Now, contrast that with Louis XIV.
Right.
He built Versailles,
Right.
but he didn't isolate himself. He kept his court there. He surrounded himself with his nobles and advisors. He knew that was where the power was.
He stayed in the loop. He kept his finger on the pulse. He kept tabs on everybody.
He was in the know.
Absolutely.
So for you, this is about, are you isolating yourself?
Yeah.
Are you missing opportunities to connect?
Right.
Build a network of support. Because true power comes from collaborating.
Absolutely. Connecting with people, building alliances,
Yeah.
and staying engaged. It's all about not being an island.
Now, Law 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. This is about social intelligence, understanding those power dynamics that are at play. Because there are definitely people out there that you don't want to mess with.
Right.
Think about Aguirre, this Spanish conquistador.
Ambitious guy.
He was driven by greed. And he ended up making enemies of some very powerful people.
Right.
He took them down. He just totally underestimated them, overplayed his hand, and it cost him. And then there's this story about Norfleet, the con man. And he targeted the wrong person, someone who was very powerful
Yeah.
and had a lot of connections. And this guy sought revenge and made his life really, really hard. So these are all reminders that you really have to think about the situation. Who are you dealing with? What are their motivations? Who should you maybe be a little more careful with?
It's like reading the room. Right.
Yeah.
You got to understand the hierarchy. And sometimes you need to know when to just back down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do not commit to anyone.
This one's a tough one.
It is a tough one. But it's about staying independent and not getting tied down to alliances that might not benefit you.
I mean, think about it. When you commit too early, too strongly to one person or one cause, you can lose that flexibility and the ability to move and change.
Talleyrand, the French diplomat.
Right, yeah.
We've talked about him a lot today. He was a master at not committing, European politics, very tricky.
Yeah.
But he would just shift alliances as he needed to. He always prioritized his own interests and survival.
Right. He knew that in that world, loyalty could actually be a liability.
Right.
Right.
And then you contrast that with Arnold and Slack, the con men,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Those guys.
They used the illusion of commitment to get people into their diamond mine scam.
Wow.
They made people feel like they were partners, that they were all in this together
Right.
to gain their trust. And then,
Took advantage.
of course. So, this one's about being cautious about making those commitments.
Yeah, especially when things are unclear or fluid.
Yeah. Are you getting in too deep? with a person, a cause? Could it limit your options in the future?
Right.
So it's about staying a little detached.
Yeah. Keeping your options open, be willing to change your mind, to change direction if necessary.
Absolutely. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark.
Oh, this one's fun. This is about strategic self-deprecation.
Yes, using it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Because people tend to underestimate those who seem less intelligent than them.
Right. And that's your opportunity.
Yeah, it is. It is. So the fox, the crow, right?
Classic.
The fox
In
wants
there.
the fox wants the cheese. It's in the crow's beak.
Yeah.
So the fox is like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You must have the most amazing voice."
Yeah.
You know, and the crow, of course, wants to prove the fox right, so it opens its beak to sing
Drops the cheese.
right into the fox's paws. So, you know, the fox really used that flattery and admiration to get what it wanted. Now, Arnold and Slack, they were those con men we talked about with the diamond mine. They use this like, you know, shucks, we're just simple country folk
Right.
type of facade to get these really sophisticated investors to trust them.
And it worked.
It did. So, you know, for you, this is about maybe downplaying your strengths a little bit,
Yeah.
especially if you're dealing with people who are really arrogant.
Right. Let them underestimate you.
Let them think you're not as smart as you are.
It'll be to their detriment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. This one's really interesting because it seems like the opposite of what you should do.
Right. It's counterintuitive, but there's a real art to knowing when to yield.
It can be a really powerful move.
It can be.
You think about General Letov Warbeck, this German commander during World War I. He was in East Africa,
Right.
up against the British,
Right.
a much larger force. But he used these strategic retreats and even fake surrenders to just like evade them, keep his forces intact.
So smart. He knew he couldn't win a head-to-head battle.
No.
So he had to use different tactics.
Yeah, and it really frustrated the British.
Yeah.
You know, they were expecting him to like come out fighting, and he didn't.
It's like judo, right? Using your opponent's force against them.
Yeah. It's about choosing your battles
Yeah.
and conserving your strength.
Yeah.
And then there's Zhuge Liang, the Chinese general, and he used a fake surrender to lure his enemy into a trap.
Classic.
Turned it around on them.
Yeah, a seeming defeat into a decisive victory.
Yeah, so it's about deception,
Hmm.
thinking outside the box. You know, when you're up against something that seems impossible, what can you do? So for you listening, you know, are you always charging into conflict?
Right.
Sometimes a strategic retreat is better. Sometimes surrendering or seeming to surrender
Right.
is the best way to win.
Absolutely.
Okay, Law 23. Concentrate your forces. This is about focus, directing all your energy and resources towards one clear goal.
I love this one because it's so true, right? When you spread yourself too thin, you're not as effective.
No, you're not. You're not.
But when you hone in on that one thing,
Yes.
you can really achieve amazing results.
Think about the Rothschilds, the banking family.
Oh, yeah.
They built this huge financial empire. And they didn't diversify.
Right.
They focused on that one core business.
Uh-huh.
And they just put all their energy into mastering it.
Laser focus.
Yeah. And they became like the dominant force. Then you have Balthus, the artist.
Yeah.
And he stayed true to his unique style.
Mm.
Didn't follow trends, didn't dilute his vision. And that's what made him stand out.
It's about having that unwavering commitment.
It is. It is. So for you, this is a little bit about, you know, are you pursuing too many things at once?
Right. Too many irons in the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you be more effective if you narrowed your focus a little bit?
Figure out what you're really good at.
Yes. What are your passions?
What are you passionate about?
What is that one thing that you really want to achieve?
Absolutely.
And concentrate your forces on that.
Yep.
Okay, Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. Now this one sounds a little outdated, but it's about social intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, being able to navigate
Human interaction.
all those complexities with grace and skill, whether you're in a boardroom or just, you know, at a party.
Right. Reading people.
Understanding their motivations, adapting your behavior.
Being a chameleon.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we can look at Baldassare Castiglione. He wrote the Book of the Courtier.
Oh, yeah. It's a classic.
It is. And it basically lays out all the qualities of a good courtier. Charm, wit, discretion, and the ability to, you know, move through those social hierarchies.
Right.
And then you have Diane de Poitiers, really powerful figure in the French court.
Yeah.
And she kept her influence for decades. And it was through her intelligence, charm, and her strategic alliances.
She was a master of the game.
She really was. She knew how to play it. So, you know, for you, Think about your own social intelligence. Are you comfortable in social settings?
Yeah. Do you know how to read a room?
Can you pick up on those nonverbal cues?
Right. How are people feeling?
Yeah, because these skills can be really, really valuable. Okay. Law 25. Recreate yourself.
I love this one.
It's a good one, isn't it? This is all about self-invention. Recognizing that we're not fixed, we're always evolving, we can change.
Right. You're not stuck with the hand you were dealt. You can create the persona you want to project to the world.
Julius Caesar.
Right.
He wasn't born into power,
Right.
but he had this vision for himself and for Rome,
Mm,
and he just relentlessly pursued it.
right.
Crafted his public image, really played up that charisma, the strategic generosity, and he turned himself from this nobody into a legend.
It's an amazing story. He really understood the power of perception.
He did. And it wasn't just about appearances either. He backed it up with action, conquering those territories, reforming the laws.
Right. Solidifying his power.
He did it all. Then you have George Sand, the 19th century writer,
Oh, yeah.
and she took a male pen name to be accepted into that world, which was very male-dominated at the time. So it was a way for her to break free from those societal expectations and create a new identity that allowed her to express herself.
Right. It was a powerful statement.
It was. So for you, think about how you present yourself to the world. Are you projecting the image that you want? Are there aspects of yourself that you want to improve, change, maybe even reinvent?
Right.
It's not about being fake. It's about being intentional.
It's about taking control of your own narrative, shaping your own destiny.
Absolutely. Okay. Law 26. Keep your hands clean.
Oh,
So this one's about protecting your reputation.
yeah. Because even the appearance of wrongdoing can be damaging.
Exactly. You want to be the one who's calling the shots, but you don't want to get your hands dirty.
Right.
So Cao Cao, this cunning Chinese general, he was on a campaign and they were running out of food.
Oh, no.
And he knew if he didn't do something, the troops would mutiny.
Yeah.
So he blamed it on one of his subordinate officers
Wow.
and had him executed.
That's ruthless.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But he preserved his own authority.
Right, by sacrificing a pawn.
Exactly. He got what he needed.
Yeah.
But he didn't take the fall. Cleopatra, she was great at using intermediaries to handle stuff for her.
Right. She stayed above the fray.
She really did.
Yeah.
So it's about delegating strategically.
Right.
Are you taking on too much?
Right.
Could you delegate some stuff, especially the stuff that might make you look bad?
Absolutely.
So think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Protect your image. Maintain that detachment, okay? Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following.
This is a really interesting one because it's about that deep human need for meaning and purpose.
Right, we want to believe in something. We want to feel like we belong.
Yeah, and people are drawn to movements, leaders, ideas that offer hope.
They want something better.
Absolutely.
So you think about Giuseppe Borre, this alchemist in the 17th century.
Oh, yeah.
And he was really good at, doing these experiments,
Right.
promising people eternal life. Of course, it was all fake, but people were drawn to them.
Right, the mystery, the intrigue.
The promise of something better. And then P.T. Barnum, he created these spectacles
Oh, yeah.
that really captured people's imagination.
Right, he gave them a sense of wonder.
Yeah. So it's all about understanding belief and how powerful it can be. So for you, this is about what are you putting out there?
Right, what kind of story are you telling?
Are you offering people something to believe in?
Yeah. Are you giving them something to get excited about?
It's about using that power responsibly to inspire people. Okay. Law 28. Interaction with boldness.
Love this one. This is about overcoming your fear, taking that leap.
Hesitation can really kill momentum.
It can. You got to act decisively, even if it feels risky.
Yes.
Yes.
So Victor Lustig, right? He sold the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, yeah.
He approached these wealthy businessmen with this crazy proposal, buying the Eiffel Tower for scrap.
Right. Who would believe that?
I know.
But he was so confident.
He was. And it worked.
It did. Twice.
I know. So his boldness really disarmed his victims.
Right. They thought it must be legitimate.
Yeah. And then there's this story about this young wrestler who was afraid to compete.
Oh, yeah.
And his mentor was like, no. You got to embrace boldness.
Yeah.
Act without hesitation.
Right.
And so he did.
Yeah. And he won.
He did.
Well,
Confidence is key.
it is. So for you, where are you holding back?
Right.
Are you afraid to take a risk? Maybe it's time to just jump in.
Yeah.
Trust your gut.
Go for it.
Okay. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. This one seems kind of obvious.
It's important.
It is.
So many people don't do it. You got to think strategically, anticipate obstacles, have a plan.
Think about Vasco Núñez de Balboa, the Spanish explorer.
Oh, yeah.
He discovered the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
But he didn't really plan for what would happen after.
Right.
And he didn't really secure his position. He alienated his allies, didn't consolidate his gains.
And it cost him.
It did. A rival had him executed.
Now, contrast that with Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor. He unified Germany.
Right. He was a master strategist.
He was.
A brilliant diplomat.
He really thought ahead, anticipated all the challenges,
Right.
and it paid off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, are you thinking ahead?
Right.
Do you have a plan?
What are your goals? How are you going to get there?
Failing to plan is planning to fail.
Absolutely.
Okay. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. So this one's about presentation. How you present your success is as important as the success itself.
I love this one because it's about creating that aura of mastery.
Yes, like, oh, this is just natural for me.
Right.
Effortless. So you have Apelles, the Greek painter. He paid a lot of attention to detail in his work.
Right.
But he didn't want people to see the effort.
Yeah.
He wanted them to think, oh, he just does this naturally.
Right. Like he was born with this talent.
And it really increased the value of his work in the eyes of others. Then there's Senno Rikyu, the tea master, and he really paid attention to every detail of the tea ceremony.
Right.
But to the guests, it looked effortless.
Right. Seamless and graceful.
Like it was just happening.
Yeah.
So are you bragging about what you've done?
Right. Are you over-explaining?
Yeah. Or are you letting your work speak for itself?
Just let it shine.
Exactly. Okay, so Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal.
Ooh, this is about being a puppet master.
It is, but a subtle one.
Right. You're framing the choices so that people feel like they're in control, but you're actually guiding them towards the outcome that you want.
The Roman Emperor, Claudius, he was really good at this. He would pretend that he didn't know what to do.
Right.
Let his advisors present him with these limited options.
Right.
They were actually leading him to the decision he'd already made.
So smart.
And then you have Henry Kissinger, the former U.S. Secretary of State.
Oh, yeah.
And he used this in negotiations all the time. He would present options that seemed reasonable, but were really designed to benefit America.
So he was controlling the narrative, setting the terms of the debate.
Exactly. So, for you, this is about how are you presenting choices to other people?
Right.
Are you giving them real options?
Right. Are you giving them the illusion of choice?
Or are you kind of leading them down a particular path?
It can be a powerful tool.
Okay. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies.
Ooh, this one's fun.
This one is fun, isn't it? This is about escapism.
Right. People want to believe in something bigger than themselves.
Right. Something exciting, something hopeful.
Yeah, they want to be transported.
George Salmanazar, this guy in the 18th century who convinced everyone he was from Formosa.
Oh, yeah.
This island that didn't exist.
Right. He made it all up.
He did. Created a language, customs, wrote a whole book about it.
Wow.
And people believed him.
Right. Because they wanted to believe.
Exactly. And then you have those snake oil salesmen.
Oh, yeah.
Those charlatans who are always promising these quick fixes and magical solutions.
Right.
And they prey on people's vulnerabilities, their desire for something better. Now, of course, this law is not about deception or manipulation.
Right.
It's about recognizing that people are drawn to stories. They're drawn to experiences that make them feel something.
Right. Give them hope, excitement.
So think about it. Are you engaging people's emotions?
Are you giving them something to dream about?
Yeah, something to believe in.
It's about the power of storytelling, using it to inspire people, to motivate them.
Okay. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Now, this one sounds a little
menacing.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's really about understanding that everyone has weaknesses.
Right. We all have vulnerabilities, things that make us tick.
Points of leverage. So Marie Antoinette, right? Queen of France, known for her extravagance.
Right. And her ability to influence her husband, the king?
She knew how to push his buttons.
Yeah. She knew his weaknesses.
And used them to get what she wanted.
Oh, smart lady.
On a less savory note, you have con artists. Manipulators.
Yeah.
They're really good at finding people's insecurities, desires.
Right.
And then they use them. They prey on the lonely, the desperate.
Yeah. They offer them false promises.
They do. So for you listening, think about your own weaknesses. How can you protect yourself from those who might try to use them against you?
Right.
And then how can you use this knowledge ethically? Because true power comes from building relationships, not from exploiting people.
Absolutely.
Okay? Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one.
This is about confidence, projecting authority.
Even if you don't have an official position.
Right.
Christopher Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
Commoner, sailor.
Big dreams.
He did. But he approached those monarchs with such confidence that he got their support.
He acted like he was already somebody.
He did.
And it worked.
And then there's Jay Gould, the railroad tycoon.
Oh, yeah.
Ruthless.
Yeah, he was tough.
But he had this aura of power, even though he didn't come from a wealthy background.
He knew how to project that image of strength.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So are you confident? Are you assertive?
Do you command respect?
It's not about being arrogant. It's about believing in yourself.
Right. Knowing your worth. Carrying yourself with dignity. Projecting that aura of authority that inspires confidence.
Yes. Okay, so Law 35. Master the art of timing. Yeah, timing is...
everything.
It really is.
Knowing when to make your move is crucial. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait.
Joseph Fouché, the French politician.
Oh, yeah, he was a survivor.
He really was. He navigated the revolution, the Napoleonic era.
Yeah.
He knew when to speak, when to be quiet.
When to switch sides.
Yeah.
He was a master of timing.
He really was. And then there's Tokugawa Ieyasu, the Japanese emperor. He was really patient, waited for the right moment to seize power.
Right, he consolidated his forces, waited for his rivals to weaken.
And then he unified Japan.
Yeah, his patience paid off.
Yep, it did. It did. So are you acting too quickly?
Right.
Are you taking the time to really think about the situation?
Assess.
Assess, yes, and then strike at the right time.
That's the key.
Because patience can be a powerful weapon. Okay, Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge.
This is about letting go.
It is.
Not wasting your energy on things that are out of your reach.
King Henry VIII,
Oh, yeah.
he wanted a male heir so badly.
Right.
And he made all these bad decisions, broke from the church, executed his wives.
Right, it consumed him.
It really did. And it weakened his kingdom.
Yeah, he was so focused on this one thing that he lost sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. Now, Andy Warhol, the artist,
Oh,
he
yeah.
was constantly criticized, but he didn't care. He just ignored it. Focus on his art.
Right, he didn't let it get to him.
Yeah.
His indifference was his shield.
It was. So, what are you chasing? Is it realistic?
Is it attainable?
Or are you wasting your energy on something that's just not going to happen?
Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away.
Yes. Focus on what you can control. Okay, Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. So this one is all about visual imagery,
Right.
symbolism,
Yeah.
creating something that really captures people's attention.
Spectacle.
Yes,
It's powerful.
it is. Louis XIV, the Sun King, right? Versailles.
Oh, yeah.
Over the top.
Yes, elaborate ceremonies.
Right.
He really cultivated that image of power.
Yeah. He understood that presentation matters.
He did. And then there's the Moon Doctor of Berlin.
Oh, yeah. What a character.
He's a healer, but he would do these theatrical performances and rituals.
Right. It was all about the show.
It was. To, build his reputation. So are you using visual imagery effectively?
Right.
Are you creating an experience?
Yeah.
Something that people will remember?
Yeah. Sometimes a well-crafted spectacle could be a powerful tool.
It can. Okay. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. Now this one seems kind of at odds with the self-invention, right?
Right. But it's really about knowing when to adapt,
Okay.
when to conform. Pausanias, the Spartan general. Brilliant military mind,
Yeah.
but arrogant.
Yeah.
He didn't really respect social conventions.
Right. He didn't play the game.
No, he didn't. And it led to his downfall. He made too many enemies.
Yeah, he alienated the wrong people.
He did. Now, Bertolt Brecht, the German playwright, he was a communist living in Nazi Germany.
Oh, wow. That's dangerous.
It was. But he survived because he hid his beliefs.
Right. He conformed to survive.
He did. So, think about the situation you're in. Are you adapting? Are you conforming when you need to?
Right.
Or are you making yourself a target? Social intelligence is knowing when to stand out and when to blend in. When to follow the rules, when to break them.
Absolutely.
Okay, Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Now this one's about emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
Understanding that you can get an advantage by making your opponent unsettled.
Right.
Making them act irrationally.
Get them angry, get them frustrated.
Talleyrand.
Oh, yeah. He loved to poke the bear.
He did. He would push people's buttons, make them lose their cool.
Right.
He knew that when people are angry, they don't think clearly,
Right. They make mistakes.
and he used that to his advantage. Zhuge Liang, the Chinese general, did the same thing.
Right.
He provoked his enemy into attacking recklessly.
And he won.
Yes. Now, this one you have to be careful with. Right? We're not talking about being mean or vindictive,
Right.
but understanding how emotions can be used strategically.
Right.
So, are you letting your emotions control you?
Right.
Or are you using emotional intelligence to read people
Understand what makes them tick.
and then maybe use it to your advantage?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, but it can be powerful.
It can. Okay.
Yeah.
Law 40. Despise the free lunch.
This is about hard work.
It is. There's no such thing as a free ride.
No, there isn't.
Count Lustig, the guy who sold the Eiffel Tower,
Oh, yeah.
he preyed on people's greed, their desire for easy money. And his victims, they wanted that quick profit. They didn't see the scam,
They wanted something for nothing.
and it cost them. Then there are the Spanish conquistadors who were searching for El Dorado.
Right. The city of gold.
They were obsessed with finding this treasure,
Right.
and it was an illusion,
It was.
and it led them on this wild goose chase.
Yeah, they lost everything chasing a fantasy.
They did.
Yeah.
So for you, be wary of shortcuts.
Right.
Anything that seems too good to be true probably is.
Probably is. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
No, there's not. Okay, Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes.
Oh, this is about legacy and forging your own path.
Right. Because it can be really hard to follow a legend.
It can be.
Louis XV,
Yeah.
he became king after Louis XIV, the Sun King.
Right.
And it was a tough act to follow.
It was. Louis XIV had this long and glorious reign.
Yeah, it was considered a golden age. And Louis XV, he tried to be like his great-grandfather.
Right.
But he just couldn't live up to it.
He was always in the shadow.
Yeah, trapped in a way. Now, Alexander the Great,
Right.
he was the son of Philip II, also a very powerful king.
Yeah.
But Alexander didn't try to be his father.
Right. He forged his own path.
He did. Conquered new lands, expanded the empire.
He created his own legacy.
He did. So, for you, think about your own ambitions. Are you
Yeah.
trying to be someone you're not?
Yeah, are you trying to fit into someone else's mold?
Yeah.
You got to find your own way, your own voice.
Okay. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter.
Ooh, this one's ruthless.
It is a little ruthless,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about targeting the leader,
Right.
the key figure in a group,
The source of the power.
Grigory Rasputin.
Oh, yeah.
He had so much power and influence in Russia,
He did.
and he didn't try to overthrow the Tsar.
Right.
He went for the Tsarina,
Right.
Alexandra, gained her trust, became her confidant.
He knew who to target.
He did, and through her, he controlled the Tsar.
Wow, he was a puppet master.
He really was. And then there's Ivan the Terrible.
Oh, yeah.
He had problems with the boyars, the nobles. So he pretended to abdicate.
Wow. Host speaker.
So he left them in charge.
Right. And they had no idea what to do.
They were totally unprepared.
Yeah.
And it proved to everyone that they couldn't rule. So Ivan came back as a hero.
Yeah. His power was even stronger.
Exactly. So it's about thinking strategically. Who has the real power? Where's the leverage? Sometimes going for the head is better than trying to take down the whole body.
Absolutely.
Okay, Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. This one's about persuasion. Real influence comes from winning people over, not forcing them.
Yeah. You got to get people on your side.
Marie Antoinette, she was so influential, she knew how to work her husband, Louis VI.
Right. She used charm and affection.
She understood his personality,
Yeah. She knew what made him tick.
and she used that to shape his decisions.
Right.
Now, Napoleon, even though he was this brilliant military strategist and leader, he didn't really understand his minister of police, Joseph Fouché.
Right.
He relied on him, but he didn't trust him. And he tried to control him through fear and threats.
Right. Which backfired.
It did. Because Fouché was always his own man.
Yeah. He was a wild card.
He was. So it's a reminder to think about how you influence others.
Yeah.
Are you using force?
Yeah.
Or are you building genuine relationships, appealing to their emotions, their values?
You got to connect with people on a deeper level. That's where real loyalty comes from.
Okay, Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with a mirror effect. So this is about using your opponent's tactics against them, reflecting their flaws back at them.
Oh, this is a good one. It's like holding up a mirror, forcing them to see themselves.
Alcibiades, he was a master of this. He would play the Spartans and the Athenians against each other.
Right, he'd mirror their rhetoric, their strategies.
And it would create chaos and confusion.
It's so clever. It exposes hypocrisy, inconsistencies. Makes them look bad.
And you see this used in therapy too.
Oh, yeah. Couples therapy, especially.
The therapist will mirror the couple's negative communication patterns.
Right.
And it helps them see how they're contributing to the problems.
It can be a real eye-opener.
It can. So when you're dealing with conflict, are you getting defensive? Are you mirroring the negativity? Or are you taking a step back? Maybe using the mirror to your advantage. It takes a lot of self-awareness to do this effectively.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once.
This is about understanding that change is a process.
It doesn't happen overnight. People don't like sudden radical shifts.
No, they don't. You gotta take it slow.
Mao Zedong. He brought about massive change in China, but he did it gradually.
Right. He adapted his message to the culture.
He respected traditions.
Yeah, he knew he had to meet people where they were.
Contrast that with Wang Mang, another Chinese emperor. He tried to do too much too quickly,
Right, he didn't respect tradition.
and it backfired.
Yeah, he lost his throne.
So how are you approaching change? Are you being patient?
Are you pushing too hard?
Are you respecting the people around you?
You gotta find that balance between pushing forward and maintaining stability.
Okay, Law 46. Never appear too perfect.
This one's counterintuitive, isn't it? But perfection can be off-putting.
It can be intimidating, make people jealous.
Yeah, it can make you a target.
Joe Orton and Kenneth Halliwell, the playwrights.
Oh, yeah.
Orton was becoming really successful, and Halliwell was struggling. He was jealous, resentful.
It was a tragic situation.
It was. Now, Cosimo de' Medici, he was incredibly wealthy and powerful,
Right.
but he downplayed it.
Yeah. He was humble.
He wanted to seem like one of the people.
Smart move. It disarmed his rivals.
So how are you presenting yourself?
Right.
Are you trying to be too perfect?
Yeah, are you coming across as arrogant, unapproachable?
Sometimes it's better to show a little vulnerability.
Yeah, it makes you more human, more relatable.
Okay, Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop.
This one's about knowing when to quit while you're ahead.
Cyrus the Great. He built this massive empire,
Yeah,
but he kept pushing, conquering more and more land.
his ambition got the best of him.
It did. He died on some distant battlefield.
Yeah. He didn't know when to stop.
Contrast that with Madame de Pompadour, King Louis XV's mistress.
Oh, yeah, she was powerful.
She was, but she understood how quickly things could change in the French court.
Right, she never overreached.
She knew her limits.
Yeah, she knew when to walk away.
So are your goals realistic?
Right?
Are you recognizing your success? Are you pushing too far? Sometimes it's better to consolidate what you've gained before you lose it all.
Absolutely.
Okay, and finally, Law 48. Assume formlessness,
Ooh, this is about adaptability.
being like water.
Right, flowing around obstacles, changing with the times.
Mao Zedong. He was always adapting his strategies, his ideology,
Right, he was a master of reinvention.
and it helped him stay in power for decades.
Yeah.
Contrast that with Louis XVI.
Oh, yeah, he was rigid and flexible.
He couldn't adapt to the changing times.
Right, and it cost him everything.
So are you clinging to the old ways? Or are you open to new ideas, new approaches?
You gotta be willing to evolve.
Because the world is constantly changing.
It is.
That was quite a journey.
It was.
We've covered all 48 laws of power.
We did.
From strategic humility to calculated boldness. From persuasion to adaptability.
It's incredible how relevant these laws still are.
They really are. And I think it's important to remember that they're not about being manipulative or ruthless. It's about understanding the game so you can play it effectively.
Yeah.
Or choose not to play at all.
Right, knowledge is power.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think the key is to use this knowledge ethically, responsibly.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, what really resonated with you? Which law stood out? How might you apply it this week?
I think that's a great question for everyone to consider. Pick a law, keep it in mind, see how it plays out in your life.
See if you can use it to overcome a challenge or seize an opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 48 Laws of Power. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking.
And maybe even a little empowering.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.